Yo, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Bartner Show. It is episode 12. As you probably saw in the thumbnail, we have an awesome guest host interview, all that good stuff. I sat down for about 30 minutes with Nathan Murdoch, or Graviteh. As you probably know him on YouTube or Instagram, he has over 70,000 YouTube subscribers, like 20K on Twitter. Guy is an utter staple in the hockey content creation game, so it was just great sitting down with him, not sitting down with him. We did it obviously over Zoom or Riverside, but it was great talking to him, kind of picking his brain for the upcoming season, how he got started in the content game. He's obviously a guy that I admire that has built a massive following. So that's going to be great. That's the final 30 minutes of the show. We're going to do a couple topics because a lot has happened in the first week of hockey. So let's dive into it. Obviously, the number one story over the past 2 days has been Owen Power getting signed. Owen Power locked up. Fresh off the heels of the Rasmus Dahlin extension, Kevin Adams locks up Power as well. I love this deal given his potential, but wanted to hear your thoughts. So yeah, Owen Power, obviously, here for the long haul. Owen Power has signed a 7-year contract with an AAV of $8.3 million. And I like it. I think it's a solid deal. You look at Owen Power last year at only age 20, put up 35 points in around 78 games. He showed those offensive flashes of a future elite offensive defenseman. It was very promising, especially because defensemen do usually tend to take longer. The fact that he was already probably a good second pair guy, sniffing top pair, obviously, if they didn't have Rasmus Dahlin. It was a very impressive rookie season, and they are clearly following the trend that they did with Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson in paying a guy now and just letting that contract mature, because they did kind of mess up with Rasmus Dahlin in the sense that they bridged him. And it was tough to give him a long-term contract because his contract came up when he put up 23 points in 56 games. But Kevin Adams is yet again betting on his young guys, betting on the salary cap obviously rising. And when you look at Owen Power, it's the wrong thing. Owen Power is an offensive beast. He 96th percentile in terms of even strength offense last year. He is an offensive defenseman. He needs to fix some of his defensive game, but the offense is already there. I don't think he's ever going to be putting up 55, 60, maybe 55, but like 60 plus points just because they do have Rasmus Dahlin. And that's where he does kind of need to develop some of his defensive game because he won't get those power play opportunities. But when looking at Owen Power, if he can be a reliable 50, 55 point guy, shore up those defensive warts, and you get him from age 21, 22, all the way up until 30, you're getting him for his entire prime. It's not like other deals where these guys get locked up at 26, 27, and then you're paying them into their mid 30s. This is solely, it's only a 7-year deal. So this is him 22 to 29. You are getting Owen Power as long as he can be a top 40, 30 defenseman in the league. This is probably fair value throughout the duration of the contract. You look at the Athletics model that models these contracts. They don't love him in the first couple years of this deal. It says that he's only worth 6 points. He's going to be worth only 6.7, then 7.7, then 8.5. Then you're going to get into that surplus value. They don't really love him from a defensive standpoint and don't have him that high from an offensive standpoint. But I think overall, Owen Power, he was the first overall pick for a reason. Not that I look at the draft position, but based on the trajectory of his career, gets drafted, very good year at Michigan, NHL ready, NHL body. He played 23 minutes and 48 seconds last year as a rookie on a pretty defensively deficient Buffalo Sabres team. And his advanced stats defensively weren't that good, but in terms of his on-ice goal percentage, he was 55.3%, which was the best out of any Sabres defenseman. And in terms of defensemen that played over 1,000 minutes last year, he was 41st of 149. That's pretty impressive as a goddamn 20-year-old. The one thing I do think that he needs to improve with his game is he's a 6'6" guy, and he definitely is still growing into his body. But despite that, his hit numbers were pretty atrocious last year. He was 4th least in the entire league. And I know you might say, Adam Fox is a pretty good defenseman. Quinn Hughes is a pretty good defenseman. Quinn Hughes is 5'10". Adam Fox is 5'11". Those are smaller end guys. I'm not like a boomer, like he needs to be hitting 100 points hits a year, but I do think he was kind of a little bit timid, a little bit shied away from physical contact on the defensive end. Other players were kind of able to bully him despite him being 6'6". So I think if he has more of an aggressive defensive mindset and is able to utilize his body more, that's only going to improve his defensive game. So I would like to see him in that even a 40 to 50 range improvement this year in terms of hits would be a massive improvement and overall help his defensive game. But yeah, I think that this deal, there's definitely some risk involved in it because we've seen other defensemen in the past kind of stall out while they're young. I don't think that's going to happen with Owen Power, but with him and Jake Sanderson, you cannot say that these are utter steals because we haven't even seen him crack 40 points and be legit elite top pair defenseman. But I think given Buffalo's cap situation, this is a very good deal considering now they have Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, Tage Thompson, and Dylan Cousins locked up for under $34 million. I think it's about $35.5 million up until 2030, I believe. 2030, their entire big four is locked up pretty cheap. And by 2030, the cap is going to be over $100 million. So you're going to have your four best players making less than a third of the salary cap. Back what was Toronto's and it was his worst. It was like $40 million for four players. You're going to have them for 33. And with those deals, those guys, Tage Thompson's the oldest of that bunch, and he's still 25 years old. Maybe he's a fresh 26. So those guys are all in their prime. It's not like Toronto Maple Leafs when you had to give John Tavares that contract at 27 and it rapidly starts to regress. You're going to be getting those four stud guys for the most part all at bargain. If Power progresses by year 3, bar year 4, he's going to be worth that. That's going to be a probably surplus value deal. Dahlin isn't a fantastic deal, but if he's going to win you the Norris, he's going to be worth more than $11 million. Norris finalist, that's probably like 11.5, 12. And then the Cousins and Thompson deal, them being at a combined $14 million, really allowed Kevin Adams to take those risks on slight risks. Obviously, I don't think that they're massive risks, but those two contracts allowed Kevin Adams to say, I'm not going to pinch pennies, try to do another bridge deal with Dahlin or do a bridge deal with Power. I'm just going to pay him because we have so much surplus value built up with those two other contracts that I think Buffalo definitely has in terms of core four. Maybe I have to make a video or a list on that. Best core four salary structures. It'll be really hard to find a team that's better over the next 7 years in terms of their salary structure as the Buffalo Sabres, because their only bad contract right now is the Jeff Skinner one, but even him was above a point per game last year in terms of long-term deals. So the Sabres are looking pretty good. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this Owen Power extension? Do you think he's worth it? I want to hear from you guys. On to the next one. Kent getting bent. Hey, Mike, saw you comment on it, but how did Kent Johnson just get healthy scratched by the Jackets? If they were a contender, sure, but they stink. Play the young guns. That comes to us from Emmanuel. So obviously, it was kind of a shocker this morning when a tweet came out from a Columbus Blue Jackets reporter that Kent Johnson, as well as Liam Foudy and Adam Boquist. Boquist was the guy that they got in the Seth Jones trade, former top 10 pick in 2018, were healthy scratches in the season opener against Philadelphia. The season opener that the Columbus Blue Jackets would go on to lose 4-2 to the Philadelphia Flyers. So obviously not a good showing in terms of the team, but it's a shocker. I mean, Kent Johnson, 2021 5th overall pick. You expect after a pretty solid 40-point rookie season, you expect him to take that next step. Last year, he played between 14 and 15 minutes. You're expecting him, maybe not so much because they have Fantilli. He might have switched to the wing, but you're expecting him to play at least 15 again, maybe 16 minutes, step into that legit top 6 role. And now he's getting a healthy scratch. He's getting a healthy scratch. Pascal Vincent had some pretty interesting quotes to say about this. What do you need to see from Kent Johnson? He said that he's a very skilled player. He's a great guy in the room. Guys respect him, and there's a reason why. But he had to make a decision. He kept on saying that Kent Johnson will be a Blue Jacket for a very long time, and he's going to be a great player. But moving on to the second quote, he kind of was a little bit not trashing him, but his training camp was not the best. His training camp was not the best in terms of Kent Johnson. He said, I took a pretty long detour here. In KJ's case, that's the pace. Just get the pace in going. I know he can bring it. He can. The morning after, he was one of our best players, so it's good to see it. So in terms of that, there's one more quote that I want to show, but he really stressed this pace of play that Columbus is trying to play with, and apparently Kent Johnson wasn't bringing it in training camp. Here's the other quote when talking about another guy that made the opening night roster over him. Emil Brinsham. Brinsham is second on our team for points in preseason. In the preseason, Kent Johnson had only 2 assists in 4 games. Brinsham had 3 goals, 4 assists in 5 games. So that's for context. Brinsham, he's got a lot of confidence. He gets involved physically. He's good on forechecking, scoring goals. So that's what we want. We want guys who are competing, and my job is to reward the guys that are doing to their best abilities, something it creates that competition within the team. And for me, that's healthy. Guy like Brinsham comes in here and he's like, I'm a bubble guy, but he's here to make the team and earn his ice, and he did it. Nobody can argue with that, so good for him. So obviously, not taking like a dig at Kent Johnson, but just saying that some other guys played better, made the team over him, which I think is fair. I mean, yes, he is the 5th overall pick. Yes, Kent Johnson is more of a future player than, say, a Emil Brinsham, a Sean Corrali, an Eric Robinson. But I do kind of respect to agree that he's not holding Kent Johnson on that pedestal just because he went 5th overall, that he's almost entitled to playing time. I found this tweet pretty interesting from a Columbus Blue Jackets account. People wanted Larson fired because he didn't hold players to a high enough standard. They want Vincent fired for holding players to a higher standard. So when looking at that, when looking at Kent Johnson, I keep on saying Wyatt Johnston, like Wyatt Johnston, Kent Johnson. I think they're both 2021 draft. That's messing me up. But Kent Johnson, when looking at him, yeah, I do appreciate that Vincent is coming in and saying he wasn't a part of the draft process for Kent Johnson. He doesn't really owe him anything. He needs to make the team. This will be a problem, though, if he continuously gets scratched, if you know what I mean. Like, if they're throwing him up in the press box multiple nights, I think that's going to start being ridiculous. As long as this is just, I know you have the talent, you didn't display it in camp, we're going to have to healthy scratch you tonight, but once you do start displaying that, you're going to have a serious role in this team. If Kent Johnson goes from 14 minutes, 30 seconds last year to playing 11, 12 minutes next year, then I'd probably have a problem with that. Then I'd honestly suggest that they send him down to the AHL. But if this is just a one-off in terms of Kent Johnson, didn't have the best camp, Vincent wants to show him a lesson, teach him a lesson in the sense that not everything's handed to you. You're not the golden boy. You're not Connor Bedard you're 5th overall pick. We believe in you. You have the talent, but you need to prove it. I kind of like that move. I saw a lot of people extremely outraged. And to a degree, I initially was like, that's weird, whatever. I didn't say that's a bad move. But obviously, Pascal Vincent knows more about what's going on with the Columbus Blue Jackets than me and you. Shocker. I'm breaking some news with that. I'm going to trust him in terms of evaluating, based on the training camp, who gives him the best chance to win the next game. He's in practice. He's doing all that stuff. I do think it will be bad if he prioritizes Eric Robinson, Sean Corrali, Emil Brinsham, like further down the season. If Kent Johnson is not developing, I partially blame him. And also, they do need to give him some ice time. You cannot throw him in a bottom 6 role because he did just score 40 points. He clearly has the offensive tools that in part goes on Pascal Vincent to help teach him that system and optimize him to the best ability. So this is definitely going to be a situation to monitor. I think people are overreacting to a degree. I could see Kent Johnson playing 16 minutes the next game just because Pascal Vincent lights a fire under his ass. And maybe that's something that he needs. Maybe that's just something that he needs. Some players do respond positively to these healthy scratches. And if you don't, that's honestly a bad sign. I would prefer. I would like to think that Kent Johnson sees this instead of saying, I scored 40 points last year. I'm a 5th overall pick. I'm the guy. Like, I'm the franchise player for this team. I hope he realizes, maybe I didn't play my best in the training camp. Maybe I have another level to get to. So I really hope that happens with Kent Johnson because I am still very high on him. I mean, last year, he displayed a ton of talent. He obviously scored that one disgusting Michigan goal, but he has the offensive tools to be an eventual 70 to 80 point guy. I would go so far to say that. So I hope that this really does light a fire under his ass and we see a new and improved, more pace, as Pascal Vincent says, pace and two-way play in Kent Johnson's game because he wasn't that good defensively last year. Maybe this could be one of the better things to happen in his career. And when looking back on it, it's only one game. It's not the end of the world, but that's definitely something to monitor. The last question before we get into this interview with Grav, the Bedard effect. So the NHL clearly went full double down on Bedard marketing, and it seemed to have paid off. Is he already the face of the NHL? And if not, who is? That comes to us from Drew. So obviously, Connor Bedard, not only on ESPN opening night, on TNT the following night against the Boston Bruins, and it was a massive success for the NHL as a whole. In terms of the ESPN numbers, Chicago and Pittsburgh averaged 1.43 million viewers. This is ESPN's most viewed regular season game on record. And then the following night, NHL on TNT, they got 896,000 viewers for Blackhawks versus Bruins, which was the most watched regular season TNT game in history, excluding the Winter Classic, because obviously Winter Classic, New Year's Day, it's the only game on, at least at the time. It does massive numbers. But when looking at Bedard, he smashed the TV ratings. It's kind of expected. If you would have told me what the previous regular season ratings record was, I probably would have said he has a decent chance of breaking it. Just because you look at it, the first game of the regular season is always going to be, for the most part, the most viewed game, unless you have a last second winner take all to make the playoffs. That's the only thing that can really top it for the most part, or the Winter Classic or Stadium Series maybe. But when looking at this game, Connor Bedard was obviously the number one topic. You had Sidney Crosby too, which is also a pretty big draw. But I wouldn't say Connor Bedard is the face of the league now, because there's just so much intrigue regarding Connor Bedard in his debut. There was so much hype that, maybe he could go for 90, 100 points. Then so much other hype that he's only 18, he's not that good. There was so much mystery regarding his game, how it would translate to the NHL, that there was just so much eyeballs. I think in a couple months, when the Chicago Blackhawks have a 45 or 40% points percentage, Connor Bedard is doing very good, but there's not a lot of mystery around them. If they're on ESPN, then I still think it does very good numbers compared to most teams, don't get me wrong, but he's not pulling in records at game 37 when the Blackhawks have 30 points and he's still doing solid. It was the perfect storm. It was really the perfect storm. ESPN and TNT did a very good job with this, especially ESPN. Gary Bettman deciding that Penguins versus Blackhawks game would be the opener was a fantastic idea, because obviously you have the old guard and the new guard. I know McDavid still exists. That kind of pissed me off too, how they kept on stressing that. Obviously McDavid still exists, but for Crosby, he only has a couple more years left. Bedard obviously just getting started. It was a perfect dichotomy matchup. I think I used that word correct, but a perfect matchup in terms of storylines. And as a result, the NHL absolutely killed it. In terms of face of the league, it's still Connor McDavid, but obviously Connor McDavid's not going to bring as many eyeballs opening night, because this is year 8 of the Edmonton Oilers, and we know he's the best player in the world, and we know he's going to be great. We know what to expect. That's what I'm saying. Connor Bedard, there was a bunch of mystery, and there's still going to be mystery throughout the season. See if he can continue to take his game to another level. That's not really the case with Connor McDavid, but Connor McDavid is still the face of the league. If there was a player, as I said with game 37, would I rather watch Connor Bedard in the Chicago Blackhawks once I know they're a bad team and I know he's a stud? Or would I rather watch Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, mainly Connor McDavid? It's no doubt Connor McDavid. It's still great that the NHL now does have this. Another young, marketable star like a Connor Bedard. Now you have Hughes, Matthews, Bedard, McDavid. League's in a very good spot in terms of young faces. 5 years ago, that was not really the case. It was Crosby and Ovechkin still. You didn't know who was going to rise to the top. I guess McDavid was on the rise then. But the NHL is in a very good spot in terms of marketable faces. And Connor Bedard is definitely in 6 to 8 years, once McDavid does start regressing, he is going to be the face of the league. I fully believe that. As long as, even if he's not the consensus best player, he probably will be the face of the league, just because of so much hype that he had, and the fact that he is on the Chicago Blackhawks. That's the thing with Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, early 2010s, Crosby was better. Crosby was obviously battling injuries. Ovi was better, but who was on the best team and was in the biggest market comparatively to those other guys and played with absolute flash and style? It was Patrick Kane. He was basically the face of the league early in the 2010s, at least in America. So when looking at Connor Bedard, I think that in the market of Chicago, he is going to be absolutely massive. The TV ratings are going to stay very high, because it is the second biggest hockey market in America, and the fourth in the entire North America. Only Toronto and Montreal probably also surpass it. But yeah, he's going to be massive, and it's awesome for the NHL. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Bedard effect on the NHL? And without further ado, we went for 20 minutes there. We are going to throw it to our interview, my interview with Nathan Murdoch, Graviteh. We talk a lot of hockey. I hope you guys really enjoy it. See ya. Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back with another interview. I am happy to be joined with a legend on the YouTube sphere for NHL content. I'm joined by Nathan, or as you guys probably know him as Grav. How are we doing?
Yeah, I am very welcomed. That is very true to be a part of this. It's great to be a part of this as well. And thank you guys for coming in, listening to the pod. It's going to be a special episode today.
Yeah, we're diving into it. We're filming this on Thursday, going to be out Friday, obviously. So we've had 2 games of NHL action. But first off, I kind of want to just dive into your overall background. You're coming up as a hockey creator, your journey as a whole. I'm sure there's some overlap between our 2 fan bases followings, but just let me know how did you get your start in NHL content creation, and how has your journey overall been?
It's been a blast, to put it lightly. I mean, it's something that, I could go all the way back to when I was watching Texas Rangers games as like a 10-year-old, being like, oh, I want to be a commentator. I want to be somebody talking about sports for a living. And it wasn't really anything until I was 14, actually. And the story I always love to tell is how I got my Google account started by signing up for Pokemon Go in 2016. And I was
Those days.
like, okay, all right. And over the course of the next year, that's when I started to watch a lot more sports YouTube. And eventually, it's probably not a surprise, but I found Steve Dangle first in the hockey sphere. And at first, I started making videos on the Texas Rangers at the start of 2017, and making just basically like LFRs, but for them. So it'd be like every
Mhm.
series I would do something. And eventually I was starting to integrate more stars content, as like at that point it was already my favorite sport by far, but it was starting to become even more exciting for me to talk about, and for me to just want to put my opinions out there. And eventually I would, and I started just doing the stars, but as things broadened, as I was able to put more time into it, really I was just able to talk about a lot more of the league. And eventually that was what was really started to take off the channel. And everything is I guess a lot of like the breaking news videos I would make, and a lot of the trade videos I would make. And it's funny because I feel like if I never broadened out, I have no clue where I'd be right now. But of course, still, I've always had that dream, I guess, of talking about sports. And I'm not on ESPN or anything right now, but I still very proud of all that it's become. And of course the fact that like a couple people care about my opinions.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you started so young. I didn't start till I was like
Yeah.
20 or 21 years old, junior year of my college. But going to now, you said ESPN, obviously. You went from Sportsnet, you were doing content from them. Now you know more transitioned into the Steve Dangle network. How has that
Hmm.
been overall? Obviously, they're a pretty brand new company. I know a couple people over
Yeah.
there. What has your overall experience been, and what are you guys kind of trying to bring to the table to differentiate as a company?
Yeah, to me, it's been a blessing to work with them and do a lot of the. I did a bunch of trade or not trade rooms. I did a bunch of season previews for every team a couple months ago, and that was a unique experience because, especially with Sportsnet, of course, I was able to work with Steve and producer Drew over there. And by the time that my time with Sportsnet was done, they were already full time with SDPN. So it was kind of a natural like, oh hey, can we make something work with this? And of course, that ended up happening. And to be able to work with them during all that has been awesome. And they're amazing people over there. I think the best part about it is just how authentic it is, just how like built for the fans it is than anything else. And I think that's why I guess the transition was so smooth. And just working with all of them in Sportsnet, but also just in SPPN has been awesome to just be around those people. Because that's one of my favorite parts about the job, is being able to just talk and be around all these awesome hockey people. And that's honestly one of the biggest blessings from it, especially Steve. He's class act, man. Love him to pieces.
Yeah, no, I've really been liking like SDPN's kind of new content that they're launching, all that. It's a lot more personal. It's not like buttoned up like ESPN,
Hmm.
TNT, where like you need to be like an NHL veteran to even get on the shows or to be qualified on there. It's a lot more laid
Yep.
back, just kind of for the common man. Which obviously me and you, I don't know if you really grew up playing hockey, but yeah, we didn't play college hockey,
Yeah.
pro hockey, all of that. So it's a lot. It's maybe a little bit more of a welcoming environment for
Hmm.
overall hockey takes and all that. But Yeah. So moving on, obviously the NHL season started as a whole. What has your kind of takeaways been of the first two nights?
Yeah, I gotta say, this is like one of the seasons. This is maybe my most like anticipated season. I don't know about you, but this is like coming into it like everything about it is just so exciting. I think the best part about it is how many teams have just. I think the biggest difference is just how many teams have a player that you want to watch. How many teams have somebody that can draw you in. Like even Chicago now has, of course. I mean, obviously, we're going to be talking about Connor Bedard, but you got
Yeah.
players like Lucas Reichel, who I love to pieces, and Kevin Korchinski coming in. Like all these teams, like I can even name the worst team, which is going to be San Jose, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I have my dog William Eklund on there.
Yeah.
Like they're
Eckland's at least someone to watch. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is I feel like there was a little bit of a slight oversaturation once, of course, we saw Vegas and a little bit more expansion. And I feel like we've started to see the player base kind of catch up a little bit. But that spread, I think every team has somebody to watch. And just with the infusion of so much good young talent, and still the fact that we still have Crosby and Ovechkin going, we still have McDavid in his prime. Like to me, there has maybe not been a better mix in the NHL, maybe ever, of talent and
Yeah.
potential and just competitiveness. Like it is so much fun to watch, and I think that speed and everything, we've started to finally see just all these new players who have grown up with a little more of a speedy game, a little bit more of a skilled game, and we're starting to see the repercussions of that. We're starting to see almost every team has somebody that can make a game breaking play, and I've just been loving it so far. It's been awesome.
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, there's really no clear cut favorite heading into this year. It seems to be one of the most competitive
Mhm.
years because even Vegas that just won it, they're starting to get up there in age. Colorado made some moves this summer. Landeskog still obviously on LTIR. Just overall
Mhm.
the competitive balance compared to last year, where like previous years Tampa was kind of like the presumed favorite the last previous 3 years. Colorado
Yep.
was a juggernaut that year. Once they were heading into the playoffs, it kind of looked in that
Mhm.
direction. And just overall, the young players finally had some personality. Like 5, 6 years ago, there was a lot of fun players in the league, but like you knew
Yeah.
literally nothing about them. So I think that angle for the NHL this year, it's going to be one of the most fun years in NHL history as a whole. Do you have? I'm pretty sure I watched your video preseason prediction video, but who is
Mhm.
your Stanley Cup pick right now?
For me, I this is so embarrassing for me because every time I say it, I have to reserve the fact that I'm not biased. I promise. I promise. Because I predicted last year, I did not see the Stars making the playoffs in the preseason last
I
year.
didn't have him either. I didn't have him either.
I did not have them making it. I thought the Blues would be better. That's how pessimistic I was on the Stars. I have them winning the Stanley Cup this year.
I like it. The only thing and the only problem I have with the Stars is, like you looked at in previous years, Vegas had Theodore and Petrangelo, Colorado
Yeah,
had Hayes and Makar, Sergachev, Hedman. I just don't think they have that number two defenseman quite
that's
yet. Maybe
fair.
Thomas Harley can turn into that. So
That's
if you're
fair.
looking at the Stars, what do you think their biggest weakness is? Is it that? Is it some other aspect of the game? You obviously know a lot. So what is their differentiating factor that could lead them to win the Stanley Cup, but also potentially lead to them? I think we all agree they're going to make the playoffs in some
Mhm.
form or fashion. But what's the biggest question mark and what's the biggest strength?
Yeah, to me, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like that top four, you have a lot of guys that could play up to their different standards. Thomas Harley, of course, I'm expecting a big year out of him. I will say I do expect Esa Lindell, Yanni Hakanpää to do a little bit better than they did last year. Now, putting those two together on a pairing still makes no sense to me at all
Yeah.
because they are the exact same player. Um,
Just bruisers, defensive
yeah,
defenseman. Yeah.
and that's I think been the biggest thing that's almost held Miro Heiskanen from being. I mean, besides until last year, getting a lot of that attention is because he is on the ice for a lot of goals. That maybe his partner is the reason because of it. He's a player that has had to carry the Stars in a lot of ways, and even last year was definitely a player that had to carry them with Ryan Suter on his pairing. So I would say, yeah, that is absolutely the biggest weakness. But I also feel like the forward defense might be get a little bit better. Players like Sam Steele, I think, are pretty underrated in that aspect. Matt Duchene is going to be really interesting as a top six addition.
Yeah. Really
But I
interesting.
would agree with that. I think another big reason why it was so disappointing last year with Jake Ottinger kind of being reportedly banged up in the playoffs last year. That was a huge blow, especially after that first round versus Minnesota. He did not look good. And I think that might be a biggest thing. If he's able to stay healthy, if he's able to stay consistent, he might be able to mitigate some of the Ryan Suter isms in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And also, yeah, the other thing that scares me with Dallas, and I still have them like 110-point team. They're going to be
Yeah,
battling in the
yeah.
Central Division. I have Colorado winning the cup, but that's a whole nother thing. The other thing that
Ooh,
kind of scares with them a little bit is like if Pavelski takes a step back. I think we can agree that Jamie Benn's going to take a little bit of a step back. They do have some
probably.
older pieces that could maybe hurt. What do you think that Ben, Sagan, and Pavelski? Do you think they're going to stick at that level? A little bit of regression. What are kind of your expectations for them?
Well, it's funny because I feel like the oldest player in Joe Pavelski is the one I'm worried about the least. And
Yeah,
you know
that's
how
fair.
that's pretty funny to think about. But also considering, I mean, Jamie Benn, I feel like still he has to prove to us that it wasn't a fluke season.
Yeah,
And Tyler Seguin, I think, is a player that has just been, unfortunately, just kind of. I mean, I hate to say like irrelevant on the Stars team,
that
but I
injury
feel
ruined
like
him for the most part. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like he's been a player that you've obviously expect a lot more of, but he hasn't been that player in a long time, which the Stars have unbelievably been able to work around. I mean, the fact that you could have said last year when, of course, Ben was still not in his resurging season, if you said that Ben and Sagan would be afterthoughts and this Stars team would be cup contenders, like
Yeah,
how
making
does it
making
even
like $19 million combined or something
how does that
ridiculous
even make
like that.
sense?
It's insane. Yeah.
Um, but I would say, yeah, Joe, I have no doubt is still going to be at a good level. I wouldn't say that he's going to be. I could see him taking like a slight step back, but kind of being in like a Matt Zuccarello territory where he might not still be the guy on his line necessarily, but he's going to be a great, amazing complementary piece. We can see what Joe is made of. But I would say out of those three, I would say Sagan maybe has the best chance of having a better year, but that's just because
Yeah, just
getting
he's
back
only
into
at
game
50 points
action,
last year. Yeah.
maybe yeah, maybe he's able to do a little bit better, be a little more consistent in his finishing because that has completely evaporated. But I feel like those are honestly just kind of at least with Ben and Sagan, they're in a weird position where they aren't, the main drivers anymore. But I would look for. It's so funny because Jason Robertson was like almost a point per game in the playoffs last year, but there were a lot of times where you're like, okay, can he have that extra gear? You know what I mean? Can he
Yeah.
look a little bit more dominant? And I think
Definitely
honestly,
looks more
this
and more.
next year that might be one of the biggest signs of improvement. If not just Hintz, who we've seen has been a beast in the playoffs, but
Yeah.
also Robertson can be that guy. That to me is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, it was funny during that run because yeah, it was like Hintz was getting all the love and he was playing out of his mind. People were like,
Yeah.
Robertson's like a fraud. He said it was still like point. He still had like whatever, like 20
Exactly.
points in 20 games. Like
Exactly.
chill. Like he's not having the best thing, but he's not going
Yeah.
absolute ghost mode and they're still winning. So yeah, Dallas Stars Cup pick. I think out of the Western Conference, that would probably be my second team that I would go with. So I really
Mhm.
like that. Who's a team that maybe not win the Stanley Cup, but can surprise some people and make the playoffs?
I'm gonna die on this hill, and Mike, I'm gonna get a lot of hate and a lot of
I'll clip this one. Don't worry.
yeah, I'll expect it. But this is one that I think I am the only person to ever have this opinion this year, and I gotta say, if they that first game, people were dogging on them in the first after the first period as they should, but I am a firm believer that this Nashville Predators team will be a playoff team when it's all said and done. To me, I think that game versus Tampa showed a lot of good things, and they have a lot of new faces. So I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised to see that game started off horribly for them. But you saw 5-on-5 when they weren't taking penalties; they were wiping the floor with Tampa,
Yeah.
arrested Tampa team. And to me, I think they have so many underrated young players. I mean, even players like Evangelista didn't even have their best game, but still looked pretty solid. But players like that, Cody Glass taking that next step, Tommy Novak is, dude, like
Out of
I
nowhere. Yeah.
the dude night and day has become an AHL player or gone from an AHL player to a difference maker every single game.
Mhm.
And I love the mature additions of Ryan O'Reilly. That is already a captain like presence on that team added. Philip Forsberg is going to be healthy. That is huge. Nyquist, when he is healthy, has proved to be a really underrated scorer the past couple of years. I like that depth on Nashville squad, but to me, it all comes back to UC Saros. To me, I think he's going to have an MVP year. He was insane in that game versus Tampa, tried to still steal it, but unfortunately wasn't able to in the end. But I think Saros is going to be a big difference maker. I think Lankinen as Saros' backup was unreal last year. That's going to continue this season. To me, the biggest question mark might not even be the scoring, but it might be that defense because there
Yeah.
are guys where I'm like, yeah, are they deserving of a top 4 spot? Are we really giving top 4 minutes to Jeremy Lazon? But
Yeah.
I feel like in the end, it'll be enough to float around UZ Saros, hopefully. And one of the biggest reasons why I'm so adamant on this pick is Andrew Burnett, who just every single year the past few years has had so much success wherever he's gone. With Florida as a head coach, with New Jersey as an assistant, to me, I really have belief that he's going to turn that team into something special. Maybe not. To me, I have them finishing in that wild card spot. They'll face the Stars, probably get swept in the first round, but dang it,
Make the
I have them
playoffs.
making the playoffs.
That'll be their Stanley Cup. That's basically their Stanley Cup if they make the playoffs somehow. Yeah, no, UC Saros, I've loved him. I think he's an absolute stud. He gets left out of the top 4 goaltender discussion in the NHL. I really don't know why, just because he plays on a worse team. His advanced stats, he was like arguably the best goalie in the entire league last year. Yeah, my thing is that defense core is a little bit shaky. UC Saros can only play so well until he lets up 4 goals on 45 shots and he still has pretty good numbers. But it's going to be interesting. Yeah, there's just too many question marks for me personally in terms of that young forward core. It's high potential. I see the vision, definitely. It's not like you said the St. Louis Blues are going to make the playoffs or something out of nowhere, like Jordan Binnington, bounced back as the caliber season. But
we've been hoping for that for years, but that's
that ship has sailed. I like their forward core of the Blues, but the defense and Binnington is just so bad. I couldn't do it. But what's maybe on the flip side of that, a team that everybody's predicting to make the playoffs, but you have just missing, or a team that's like a division winner that you have finishing in a wild card spot or something?
Yeah, to me, on the flip side, another one that's probably going to get a lot of hate because this team has been such a juggernaut in the conversation the past year. And to me, that's the Buffalo Sabres. I think that Atlantic is nutty. I think it is insane. But I look at it and I know a lot of people are on the Levi train, but there has literally never been a goaltender coming in as a rookie. And it's the whole meme that, they need AHL time to perform eventually. But there's been very few goalies that have been able to step into the NHL and be complete starters in year one, as well as having the backup options that he does. Eric Comrie and UPL, they at the very best, Comrie might be able to play 15 games or something, but that's all he's been able to really prove. He hasn't played more than 20 in a long time, I'm pretty sure. And he's just a player I don't feel easy with liking as Levi's backup. I thought they needed to go after somebody, at least get a fringe guy that can be an older presence for Levi and bring some stability at least a little bit. To me, I might see Levi doing great at the start of the year, but kind of, in that second half when he's playing 60, 65 games or something, just kind of trailing off a little bit. And to me with Buffalo, I stole some concerns with that defense. You go and get Connor Clifton, I guess. But to me, that's still a big concern. Even though you might have Matthias Samuelsson healthy, that will improve things. I think the team, especially the forward group, is rough defensively. And I think that's why, I guess, the lack of big defensive additions really hurt me. Because, people are talking about them getting Patrick Kane. Their team is already a black hole on defense. That makes zero sense to me. I get because of the whole hometown team, but I just think that would be horrible for Buffalo. They already have enough firepower, and that's why I think a lot of people are predicting to make the playoffs is because they're so entertaining. And I will say I would love for them to get there. If they get there, that is sweet. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see them prove me wrong because they are so fun and they are firecrackers every single game. It's just, to me, I feel like I have a little worries in that second half, how they adapt in that Atlantic. And to me, it's just kind of going to be a bloodbath that I'm not sure if Buffalo's going to get on top of this year, but definitely next year once I think they're a little bit more accustomed to it.
Yeah, no, that we were a little bit off base on the Predators take. I fully agree with that Sabres one. People expecting Levi, fantastic at the college level, don't get me wrong. But after 7 games in the NHL level to say he's going to be a Calder finalist, he's going to be a .915 guy is a little bit ridiculous to me. And just past that, it's a lot of young guys in that forward core that I'm not sure are going to take that next step. So they have that great first line, but the rest of the forward core I don't think is fully there yet. And I think Kevin Adams, as you said, he only really got Connor Clifton this summer. I think that was him admitting that, next year isn't really our year. Let's see what we have. And then once those deals start to kick in and we can plan our cap space more efficiently, then we go get some guys on 3 to 4 year win now deals. Not quite yet. So I think Buffalo is definitely going to be a competitive team, but everybody comparing them to, I've seen them they're the New Jersey Devils this year. I think that's a bad comparison. New Jersey Devils went out and got Marino the previous offseason, got Dougie Hamilton. They massively improved year over year. It's not really the case with Buffalo, although they should be a pretty good team still.
Definitely. Well, we'll go out on a limb on this one, Mike. We're gonna go down together. If Buffalo
Yeah,
makes
no,
it.
when the Sabres win the Stanley Cup, I'll be scrubbing this episode. Don't worry.
Yep.
It'll be 25 minutes instead of 30. But obviously, one of the biggest story by far, first two games, well, the first 2 days, he played both games, is Connor Bedard, goal and an assist already. Had like 5 or 6 shots on goal in his first game. I didn't watch a ton of the second game, but
Mhm.
what do you think about Connor Bedard overall? What do you expect after seeing these first 2 games? What's like your point, goal, assist expectations this
Yeah.
season? And just going forward, what do you think about him as a player, his potential, and what Chicago is building as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, he sucks because he's tied with Corey Perry in points, obviously.
Yeah. Hey,
No,
Corey Perry has a heart in a rocket. You got to respect that.
that's true.
Legend.
That's true. Stars legend as well. I feel like Bedard has been pretty, I would say, about what I expected. I mean, just carrying Chicago in zone entries and shot attempts. I mean, he's probably going to lead the NHL in shot attempts because that would be hilarious. It's so funny looking through like the game logs and everything, just seeing how much he dominates the ice time and everything. Like Chicago, it seems like Bedard has the capability to do it, so you might as well play him if you can. But no, I mean, I think he's playing exactly how he should. I mean, I don't think he's doing anything. I mean, I think the fact that both of his points so far haven't been too flashy is actually a really good thing. I think we've seen Bedard so far not take it easy, but be a little bit more of an overall player, be a little bit more of a physical presence, and I feel like him as well. I think the anticipation in this play has been one of the biggest things. I mean, he's having takeaways too. He's one play in that Pittsburgh game that really caught my eye was he was playing in the defensive zone. Chris Letang was on the blue line. He goes to pass to his
Yep.
partner on the right side, and he's right there on the jump, getting it and putting it out of the zone, starting his own entry into the offensive zone. And that to me, that anticipation in his overall game was one of the things I want to see the biggest improvement out of from his junior years, because it seems like now we can officially confirm, yeah, there were moments where he was just too good for junior, and he probably knew that and was just making some defensive mistakes. But I think he is now up to the challenge completely, and we've seen every single game in and out just how much of a mature player he is already looking like a 25-year-old, looking like he belongs. And that's best case scenario if you're Chicago. I mean, no matter how many points he gets, I mean, you want to see that growth already. You want to see him look like he belongs, because we have seen far too many first overall picks in their first year in the NHL just look like they should be in the Liga instead. Like, I'm sick and tired of that, man. And I'm glad that we see Bedard already from the first shift looking like he belongs on a first line. I mean, I think we deserve that as hockey fans.
Yeah, if he busted, that would have been bad. But yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. It seems like although his line mates aren't that good, it seems like he's trusting Taylor Hall a decent amount. It's not like he's playing purely hero ball like he could at the WHL level, where you could just dangle through 5,000 people. But overall, yeah, I was really impressed. His skating, he was able to enter the zone very good against, especially, I think he like dangled the hell out of Eric Carlson on one
Yep.
play. It's not really saying much, but yeah, it's his anticipation too. He had a couple like slick behind the back passes. He just sees the game so well, and I knew that would translate to the NHL level. What's your prediction right now in terms of goals and assists for a rookie year? I started preseason. I said 35 and 42 for 77. What do you think?
I feel like that's not too far off. I was more in the camp of like 60, 65 because I was not sure how Chicago was going to be around him, but they actually aren't looking too bad around him, which is crazy.
Yeah,
But I
Ryan
would,
Donato has impressed me in the first two
yeah,
games. I think
yep.
he's actually been pretty solid.
I picked him up in fantasy after the first game. I was
Snag
like,
sleeper.
I gotta make it happen. But yeah, I would totally agree. I would say probably more around like the 72 point range, probably around 35 goals, pretty even spread for him. But I think honestly, I mean, considering what we've seen for rookies, I mean, I've seen people saying he's going to get 100 points and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's
I mean,
ridiculous.
I want whatever they're smoking. But even then, if he has 60, 70 points, people forget, just how incredible that is for an 18-year-old rookie.
Yeah.
And to me, especially on Chicago's system, like that is, I mean, that's like 100 points on some other team. Like he would be doing gangbusters over in New Jersey if he was there. But to me, I think it's been about as good as it can be, and I think he'll have a pretty good season throughout, hopefully.
Yeah, I remember people like comparing him to how McDavid was above a point per game. McDavid still had young Draisaitl who had like 50 points in
Yep.
70 games that year. He actually had like Taylor Hall in his prime. Like it is not really comparable as long as he goes for 30 and 30. I have absolutely no concerns. The reason why I'm still kind of high on like mid to high 70s is he's playing 21 minutes a night. They're
Yeah.
kind of running him into the ground, like which they should, but like maybe take it down a little bit. But he is getting a ton of ice time. So we got 5 minutes left now. We're gonna be doing a would you rather Jason Robertson edition. Grav, Nathan is obviously a Stars fan, so I assume he's like your favorite player for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi. So let's dive into it. The first one is Elias Pettersson. Jason Robertson or Elias Pettersson?
Elias Pettersson.
Elias,
Definitely.
definitely. I'm like a toss up. I think I might slightly go Pettersson
Okay.
just because he's a center and better defensively,
Yeah.
but Robertson better goal scorer.
Is this now, or is this, we're
This
starting a
season. We'll go
franchise?
this season.
Okay. I
No
think
cap hit or anything. Just player.
Yeah. That Vancouver start though. Pettersson had like what, 5 points or something?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, to me, I would still go Pettersson because he is everything I value in a hockey player right now. I predict him to win the Selke, but he might just win the Art Ross at this point. But he to me is just, he is the epitome of just a smart, just a skilled, just everything you'd want in a centerman. He is that. And if he improves his faceoffs, man, to me, he is already a top 5 center in this league. And I don't think a lot of people have that opinion, but I have that opinion because of how, he was one of the most valuable players in the league last year to me.
Yeah.
And this next year, that's going to continue. The fact that apparently the Canucks aren't that high on him. What Elias Pettersson are you watching? I like the other Elias
They're
Pettersson.
unsure about whether they want to sign him long term. Yeah.
And they must be watching their other Elias Pettersson who they drafted, who's still pretty good. But
all right, next one. We got Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes.
Damn. I go Jack Hughes as well. I'm a huge Jack Hughes guy. I just think his skating is so elite and just so top tier. Obviously, it's not Connor McDavid, but it's like he does that at such an elite level, better than comparatively anything that like Jason Robertson says, his differentiating factor. So I personally go with Jack Hughes. But what about you?
Yeah, to me, it's all about, what I value. To me, I think I would prefer a player that is one of the best creators in the league to a player that's a lot more of just a pure finisher, and a player that is right place, right time. Like Jason Robertson is probably one of the best players in the league at doing. But to me, Jack Hughes is a player that, is close to bringing the complete package. I think is a little bit further back than Elias Pettersson at this stage. But I do like just how much progression there has been. The skating is obviously unreal. We're talking about Bedard and the awareness he has. Hughes has been unbelievable in that aspect. And to me, I would, again, center, I would go Jack Hughes, even if it is hot. I'm not looking like the best Jason Robertson.
Yeah, trashing him. Yeah, I'm about to be like Sebastian Aho, and you'd be like Sebastian Aho.
No.
That's not going on. Next we got Sidney Crosby.
Jason Robertson. Yeah, that one. Well, that one I shouldn't have said that easily. Obviously, Sidney Crosby is still the kid. He still has so much going for him, and that just pure work ethic and the way he just puts himself on the ice is just so admirable every single game. But to me, I would say at this stage, I would definitely prefer Jason Robertson's shot recreation. I would prefer just how of a I guess just how much of a just pure producer he is. Though with Crosby, we've seen just how consistent he has been. So that's a hard one. I would say for the Stars right now, though, I would go especially Jason Robertson because of course, you already got Rupe Hintz there, and you kind of have like a Crosby-like presence in Joe Pavelski already. I know that's blasphemous to say to some people, but Joe is that influential to them. So to me, I would say just overall Jason Robertson, but Sid is still one of the best in the league.
Yeah, this is one of those like loser answers, but for me, like if it was like a game 7, I might go like Sidney Crosby, I'm saying. But if we're talking full season, I think Jason Robertson can even improve on the season that he had last year. I'm gonna go with Jason Robertson right now. My last one, I might have to change this because I think I know who you're gonna go with at this point. But David Pastrnak, who are you going with?
Jason Robertson.
Damn, I'm still going with Pasta, but I want to hear your takes.
Okay, so this is to me one of the biggest things because I usually, that's it's so hard because it's right now, and Pastrnak was unbelievable, obviously last year, and so far too. What did you get? 2 goals in the first game? I can't remember, but obviously still unreal. To me, I would say I give the edge. Well, a lot of the reasons I give the edge to Robertson is, I would say, more of a overall difference. Now, Robertson isn't the greatest defensive player by any means, but I would say Pastrnak is enough of a black hole defensively where I kind of value Robertson a little bit more. And you also compare the playoffs too. I mean, I know that's a low blow considering what happened with Boston last year, but
Yeah.
Pastrnak I think was a was a pretty big reason. He woke up a little bit later on, but to me, it was just kind of disappointing from him, and has been for a couple of years now. But to me, with Robertson, I think there's just a little bit of maybe not that extra gear because I think Pastrnak has a better skill set, but I think Robertson is maybe a better player at applying it to all situations. But that is a close one. Pure offense, I would give it to Pastrnak, but I would say the overall player for taking one right now, I would go Robertson.
Yeah,
Just barely.
it's definitely close. I think I paused at like 8th or ninth on mine, and like 11th was Robertson. Just for
Yeah.
me, you got to respect Pasta, 61 last year. And obviously in previous years, he
Mhm.
has won a Rocket Richard. So if I'm going like, if I need just one elite player, like, but if I can partner with
Yeah.
someone, another elite player, I'm going to go with Pasternak. Jason Robertson can maybe carry an offense as a whole more on his own. But right now, I'm going to go with Pasta. But we are at the
All right.
30-minute mark now. So thank you so much, Grav, for joining us. I really
Of
appreciate
course.
it. We got to have you back on soon. Feel free to
I'd love
plug
it.
away your socials.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, anything. Just search up Graviteh. I know saying that is you're gonna be like, how is that spelled? Graviteh. No, I'm not from Quebec. I was just being weird as a 14-year-old when I made my channel name. So let me have this, okay? You can find me on Twitter at Nathan Graviteh as well if you want to find me there for all my bad takes. If you enjoy my bad
Mhm.
takes in this one, I appreciate being on.
Hey, I could respect the mistake of a name. Mine is supposed to be MB Mike Bartner on hockey. Just
Mhm.
became MBON on hockey. Roll with it. The
Yeah.
followers, the fans determine your name. You have no decision on that. Whatever they
It
roll with ends
works.
up to be the thing. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be seeing you in the next one. Got to get Grav on soon. At some
Oh
point,
yeah.
we'll get him back on. But yeah, thank you so much. Adios. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.